Welcome to Smart English Stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more English stories. Hello, my name is Olivia Brown, and today I want to talk to you about speaking English with confidence. I know from personal experience how difficult learning a new language can be. It's like standing at the bottom of a tall mountain, looking up, wondering how you'll ever reach the top. But trust me when I say that the climb is worth it, and the view from the top is incredible. I remember when I first began learning French, I was shy, unsure, and constantly worried about making mistakes. But I kept at it. Every day I would practice, even if it was just a few minutes. Now, after years of effort, I can have full conversations in French. And the best part? I no longer feel that fear I once did. I know you can get to that point with your English too. Let me share some of the tips that helped me, and that can help you speak English with more confidence. First, practice daily. It doesn't matter if you only have 5 minutes, just use those 5 minutes to practice speaking. I used to read random paragraphs out loud from a book one had by my bed. Sometimes I even talked to my cat, Bella. Of course, she never responded, but the act of speaking made me feel more comfortable. Over time, I noticed how much my confidence had grown just by practicing regularly, even in small ways. One of my favorite memories was when I tried to speak French in a small cafe in Paris. My pronunciation was all wrong, and I stumbled over my words. But instead of laughing at me, the waiter smiled and gently corrected me. It was a humbling experience, but it reminded me that mistakes are not the end of the world. They are just stepping stones on the path to improvement. This brings me to the second tip: don't be afraid to make mistakes. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn and improve. I remember the first time I tried to speak English in front of a large group. It was terrifying. My heart was racing, and I could feel the sweat on my palms. I mispronounced several words and even forgot what I was going to say. But when I finished, people clapped, and one of my friends gave me a big hug, saying, "You did it, Olivia." You were amazing. I realized that people were not focused on my mistakes, they were impressed that I had the courage to speak. Speaking of courage, here's another important tip: surround yourself with supportive people. I found that being around people who encouraged me made a huge difference in my learning journey. When I was learning French, I joined a small language group where everyone was in the same boat, trying to learn and improve. We supported each other, and it made the experience much more enjoyable. If you can, find a group or community where you can practice speaking English without fear of judgment. It will make a world of difference. Another memory I hold dear is from when I first arrived in the US. I was working as a waitress, and my English was still very basic. One day, a customer asked me for something, and I didn't understand. I was so embarrassed that I almost cried. But the customer was kind and patient, and she even tried to help me learn the correct phrase. That's when I learned one of the most important lessons: people are usually kind and understanding if you're trying your best. This ties into another tip: practice listening to English as much as you can. Listening is just as important as speaking when it comes to learning a language. I started listening to English music and watching TV shows with English subtitles. One show I particularly loved was Friends. I watched it so many times that I began to pick up on common phrases and jokes, which helped me feel more comfortable using them in conversation. Listening helps you understand the rhythm and flow of the language, making it easier for you to speak naturally. When I think back to my early days of learning French, I remember how frustrated I used to get when I couldn't find the right words. But with time, I realized that speaking a new language is like building a house. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to lay each brick carefully and be patient with yourself. So here's another tip for you: set small, achievable goals. Don't try to be fluent all at once. Instead, aim to learn a few new words each day or have a short conversation with someone. Every small success is a step closer to your goal. One of the things I did when I was learning French was label items around my house with their French names. It sounds simple, but it really helped me learn new vocabulary. I would walk into the kitchen and see the word cuillère on a spoon or chaise on a chair. It became a fun game, and before I knew it, I had learned the names of dozens of everyday objects. You can do the same with English. Labeling your home can turn something as ordinary as cooking or cleaning into an opportunity to practice your language skills. Now, I want to share another story with you. There was a time when I felt like giving up. I had been studying for months, but I still struggled with speaking. I felt stuck, like I wasn't making any progress. Then I met an older gentleman named Robert at a local language exchange event. He was fluent in 5 languages, and I was amazed. I asked him how he had done it, and he told me the secret is not to rush. Languages take time. The more you enjoy the journey, the easier it becomes. That advice changed everything for me. I stopped pressuring myself to be perfect and started focusing on enjoying the process. Here's another tip for you: find joy in the journey. Don't treat learning English as a chore. Instead, find ways to make it fun. Whether it's reading a book you love, watching your favorite show, or talking to a friend, make sure you enjoy the process. The more fun you have, the more likely you are to stick with it. I also remember how nervous I used to be before speaking in public. My hands would shake and my mind would go blank. But one day, I tried something new. I practiced speaking in front of a mirror. It felt strange at first, but it really helped. I could see my facial expressions and how I looked when I spoke. This made me more aware of how I was presenting myself, and over time, it helped build my confidence. That brings me to another tip: practice speaking in front of a mirror. It helps you get used to seeing yourself speak and makes you more comfortable with your own voice. Another great way to practice speaking is by recording yourself. I used to record myself reading short stories or giving little speeches, and then I would listen to the recordings. It helped me hear my mistakes and track my progress over time. I know it can feel awkward at first, but it's a powerful tool for improving your speaking skills. Now, let me tell you about my friend James. He moved to the US from Brazil, and when he first arrived, he barely spoke any English. He was incredibly smart and hardworking, but the language barrier made it difficult for him to find a job. He told me once, "Olivia, I don't think I'll ever be able to speak English fluently," but he didn't give up. Every day, he practiced. He watched movies, read books, and talked to anyone who would listen. Slowly but surely, his English improved. James's story is a reminder that persistence is key. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be days when you feel like you're not making any progress, but if you keep going, you will improve. Just like James, you have to keep pushing forward, even when it feels hard. I remember the day James got his first job interview in English. He was so nervous, but he had prepared for weeks. When he got to the interview, he realized that it wasn't just about his language skills, it was about his attitude, his determination, and his willingness to learn. He didn't speak perfectly, but he spoke with confidence. And you know what? He got the job. His story is proof that confidence is just as important as language skills. So, here's another tip: believe in yourself. Confidence comes from within. Even if you don't speak perfectly, if you believe in your ability to communicate, others will too. Let me share one more story before we continue with more tips. When I was in college, I had a friend named Sarah who was learning English just like me. She was brilliant, top of the class in every subject, but she was terrified of speaking in English. She always worried that people would judge her for her accent or grammar mistakes. One day, she finally mustered the courage to give a presentation in English. It wasn't perfect. She stumbled over a few words and paused awkwardly at times, but when she finished, the entire class applauded. Her professor came up to her afterward and said, "Sarah, your passion shines through your words." Don't ever be afraid to speak. That moment changed Sarah's life. It taught her that what matters most is the message you're trying to communicate, not how perfectly you say it. So here's another important tip: focus on your message, not your mistakes. When you speak, what matters most is what you're trying to say. Don't get caught up in the little mistakes. Instead, focus on communicating your ideas clearly and with passion.